One evening, some fishermen passed by a pond and saw that it was full of fish. "We must come back tomorrow morning with our nets to catch all these fish," they said excitedly. It so happened that 3 fish overheard the fishermen talking, and the eldest of the 3 was troubled. He called together all the fish in the pond and announced, "Some fishermen will be here tomorrow to kill us all. We must leave the pond to save our lives." The second of the 3 fish agreed with the elder, and he too encouraged the other fish to leave the pond. However, the 3rd fish laughed. "Worry not," he said. "We have lived in this pond all of our lives, and no fisherman has ever come here. I'm going to stay here. My luck will keep me safe." The first fish left the pond that very evening, taking his entire family with him. Early the next morning, the second fish saw the fisherman in the distance, approaching the pond, and he too fled with all his family. Even in the face of such adversity, the 3rd fish refused to leave. Once the fishermen arrived, they cast their nets and caught all of the fish remaining in the pond. The 3rd fish's luck did not help him. He too was caught and killed. Moral of the story: the fish who saw trouble ahead and acted before it arrived survived, as did the fish who acted as soon as it came. But the fish which relied only on luck and did nothing at all died. So also in life. Critical thinking is a framework that shows us that thinking is not effective in itself without the appropriate action.
When you have 2 sources giving totally conflicting information, you have to decide which point of view to accept. Take for example this scenario. Stephen says that Charles pushed him down the stairs. He got injured. He wants Charles to be punished. That's what Stephen says. Let's go to the other side and see what Charles says. Charles says, "Why would I do something like this? Why would I push Stephen down the stairs? It was an accident. I was carrying too many books. I slipped, I fell, I knocked into Stephen. He fell down the stairs. It was an accident." So you've got 2 completely conflicting pieces of evidence, and you have to decide which one you want to believe. This is common. Based on just 2 of these reports, it's very difficult to determine the truth, because as we have seen in other episodes, both parties have a vested interest. They are not neutral parties. Both have a reason to distort the truth, not give the complete picture, or outrightly lie. In situations where you have 2 completely conflicting pieces of evidence, you have to go back to the golden rules. Motive of the individuals, the ability to observe of the individuals, the relevant expertise of the individuals. This is when you have 2 conflicting pieces of evidence or information. Usually, there are other pieces of information or evidence also available. And when you have to consider more than 2 pieces of evidence, the situation can become quite complex. Let's walk through a scenario where there are multiple pieces of evidences or multiple sources to see what happens in such a case. We have Siti, who says that she feels sorry for Stephen. She saw him fall down the stairs. She says he was groaning in pain. His arm was broken and he had to be hospitalized. It was an awful situation. Now, how does Siti fit into the picture, and how does her evidence compare with the evidence of the other 2? Well, she was an eyewitness to the incident. She saw Stephen fall down the stairs. So does her evidence support Charles or does it support Stephen's? Which one? In her case, neither. Neither parties are supported or conflicted by her evidence. Because let's examine what she actually said. She said that she saw Stephen fall down the stairs. She saw he was in pain when he fell. She feels sorry for him now. Is she sympathetic to Stephen? Sympathetic to the extent that she could be biased? Did she have the ability to observe? Did she see the whole incident? She saw Stephen fall, but did she see Charles push him down the stairs? If not, she probably did not have the ability to observe the entire incident. If you recall from previous episodes, we looked at many factors that have to be considered when someone says he saw a particular thing happening. Were there obstructions? What was the distance involved? What was the angle of view? How was the visibility? Were there distractions? Does the person have a problem with eyesight? Did the person arrive at the beginning of the incident, during the incident, or after the incident? What was the timing? There are many factors to consider. In her case, she does not mention that she saw Charles push Stephen. So it's unlikely that she saw that happen. So although City is an eyewitness, she did not observe the whole incident. Therefore, the evidence that we have now, Charles' evidence, Stephen's evidence, and an eyewitness evidence is still not conclusive. Let's bring in another party into the scenario. The teacher says that he saw Charles carrying a large pile of books when he was walking in the corridor. The teacher asked Charles for the time, but Charles said, "I'm sorry, teacher, I can't look at my watch because I'm carrying all these heavy books." So is the teacher an eyewitness to the incident? No, the teacher did not observe the incident. But the teacher's evidence supports some portions of what Charles said. Charles said, "I was carrying a whole load of heavy books. When I fell, I bumped into Stephen and that caused Stephen to go tumbling down the stairs." So Charles says that he was carrying books. The teacher says, "I saw Charles carrying some heavy books." Now, when two pieces of information agree on a certain point, that is called corroboration. One piece of evidence corroborates another piece of evidence. They agree on certain portions. So does the teacher's evidence corroborate or conflict with Charles' statement that he did not push Stephen down the stairs? Neither. What the teacher is saying is that he saw Charles carry some books. So that is the only portion where there is corroboration. Let's make the situation even more complex. Let's bring in another person, Mr. Chong, who is the discipline teacher. Now he says, "I have had frequent trouble with Charles. He gets into fights with other boys, and I have a hard time managing him." Now what is Mr. Chong's evidence here? Is he an eyewitness to the situation? No. The information that Mr. Chong is providing, is it hearsay evidence? No. What is it? If we go back to our previous episodes, you will see that it is a character reference. And if you recall, a character reference does not relate directly to the incident that's being discussed. A character reference is a reference about the person. It's historical. It's about how the person has behaved in the past. It is no guarantee, it's no indication of present behavior or future behavior. It is a historical piece of evidence. So what do we do with Mr. Chong's statement? Well, we put it aside and consider it as a character reference. Let's make the situation more complex. Julie comes into the picture and she says The stairs in the school block are slippery. Many times I've lost my balance. The school authorities should really do something about the stairs before someone gets badly injured. Now, this is Julie's statement. So where does Julie come into our scenario, into our situation? Is she an eyewitness? No, she's not. Is she giving hearsay evidence? No, she's not. Is she giving a character reference? No, she's not. She is giving us additional information outside the incident and outside the people that are involved. This is called contextual information. Does she support Stephen or Charles? Neither. She's giving information about a particular situation, and in this case it's got nothing to do with the incident at all. But she says that the staircase is slippery, so her statement can be used to indirectly support Charles' claim that Stephen slipped down the stairs. She confirms that the staircase is slippery, so indirectly she supports or corroborates part of Charles' evidence. Let's make the situation even more complex. Now we bring in Stephen's father, Jim. Stephen's father says, Charles is jealous of my son. This has been obvious to me for quite some time now, and I remember telling my son to stay away from Charles. I am sure that Charles pushed Stephen down the stairs. Another party, another point of view. So where does Stephen's father fit in? Is he an eyewitness to the incident? No. Is he providing hearsay evidence? No. Is he giving us a character witness? Yes, he is giving us a character witness. But now we have to ask, how credible is this character witness? Is Stephen's father a vested party or a neutral party? What is Jim's motive? If the motive is to protect his son and help his son, then he cannot be considered to be a neutral party at all. So different people come in with completely different points of view. Some conflict directly, some corroborate certain points, others give us points of view that are not related to the incident, giving us a whole pot of information from which we have to make a reasoned judgment. This is how it gets in real life.
Initiative is doing the right thing without being told.
So let's review the evidence we have at hand. For corroboration, we have Charles and the teacher, Anand, who saw Charles carrying a large pile of books. That's corroboration, agreement on certain points. Conflict, we have a direct conflict. Charles and Stephen. One says he was pushed down the stairs, the other says he didn't push the other person down the stairs. We have an eyewitness who saw Stephen fall down the stairs but didn't see him being pushed. We have a character reference, Mr. Chong, the discipline teacher who finds Charles' behavior a problem in the past. We have another character reference, Jim, who is Stephen's father. who says that Charles has always been jealous of his son and is prejudiced against his son. Now, to top it all, we have contextual information from Julie, who says the stairs are slippery anyway. Now, when we view all this evidence, we need to now look at the balance of evidence. Which side has more evidence supporting it and which side has more evidence not supporting it? So when you do a calculation of these factors, you find that Charles has 2 people supporting him and Stephen has 3. Does that mean that we should believe Stephen and not believe Charles? Obviously not. The other factor comes into play, the quality of evidence. The people who have provided the evidence, what is the quality of their evidence? Going back to our golden rules, what are their motives? Do they have a vested interest? Are they neutral parties? Are they biased? Are they prejudiced? Ability to observe. For the eyewitnesses, did they have the opportunity to observe the entire incident? Were they at the right angle? Were they near enough? What were the other factors? Visibility and so on. Thirdly, the relevant expertise. Do they have the skills to decide that what they saw is what actually happened? Do they have the right training? Do they have the right experience? So quality of evidence comes into play as well.
The very thing that men think they have the most of, they have got the least of, and that is judgment.
Let's look at a second example. Safwan and Shanti are business partners. Safwan wants to start a new restaurant in a new office complex. But Shanti, his partner, disagrees. They have to make the right decision because a wrong decision will result in loss of money and loss of opportunity. What do we do? Let's look at the statements. Safwan says, this new office block is in a very strategic location. When it's fully occupied, there will be thousands of office workers here. Our restaurant will make lots of money. That's Safwan's statement. What's the implication? The implication is that Safwan is pro establishing the restaurant. His business partner Shanti, on the other hand, says this new office block is not going to be successful. There is no public transport to this location. Also, the roads are rather poor. I can't see many people setting up their offices in this piece of property. If we open a restaurant here, we will surely lose money. Implication is Shanti is against opening up the restaurant. We're looking at balance of evidence here. The property owner, Andrew, this is what he says. He says, you should rent my shop lot in this office complex. You will make a lot of money if you open a restaurant here. I have tasted your food in your existing restaurant and I like it. The quality and taste of your food is wonderful and I'm sure you'll get a lot of business if you rent my shop lot in this office complex. What's the implication? Go ahead and do it. What about Fatima, the real estate agent? She says there is a glut or oversupply of offices in this city. So many new office complexes have sprung up over the last few years. So I would not advise you to buy a property in this complex just yet. Implication? Don't do it. The economist, Dr. Tan, says, my research shows that the economy is going to slow down later this year. Prices of all goods will rise and inflation will increase. You should start saving money just in case the situation becomes really bad. Implication, don't do it. Another restaurant owner, Muthu, says, no matter how difficult times are, people still have to eat. The best business to be in is the food business. I'll be opening another 2 restaurants next month. That's what another restaurant owner says. Implication, go right ahead and do it. A retired senior citizen, Rizwan, comes in with his view. All businesses are risky. I prefer to keep money in the bank. The interest I receive from the bank is guaranteed, unlike the returns from a business. I have convinced all my children to stay clear of business and settle down with a secure job instead. Implication, obviously, don't do it. Now let's make the situation a bit more complex by bringing in yet another party, Shanti's sister. She says, I think you are wrong. You're a good cook and I feel that your restaurant will do well. Also, I do need a job badly. If you open the new restaurant, I can work for you as the manager. Implication, go right ahead and do it. Motive is something we will need to look at. The director of the Restaurants Association says people have reduced their spending in restaurants. Our members confirm that their sales have reduced over the last few months. This is probably due to health concerns. People now prefer to eat home-cooked food, which is healthier. Implication, don't do it. Who's got the greatest support? Shanti or Safwan? There are 3 individuals who support Safwan and there are 4 who do not. So just by looking at the weight of evidence, just on that basis alone, then Shanti appears to have greater support. But that's not good enough. Let's examine the evidence. Let's look at Safwan's claim. The property is in a strategic location, and the assumption he has made is because it's in a strategic location, it's bound to be successful. Shanti's claim is that transportation facilities are not good, and therefore businesses in this property will not succeed. All the other parties, Andrew, the property owner, Fatima, the real estate agent, Dr. Tan, the economist, Muthu, the other restaurant owner, Rizwan, the retired senior citizen, and Shanti's sister Karina, all their evidence we need to examine from 3 points of view. Firstly, are their assertions linked to Safwan's or Shanti's claims? Secondly, what are their motives? And thirdly, do they have the relevant experience? So in summary, when we have more than one piece of evidence that we need to consider in order to make a reasoned judgment, there are several factors we have to look at. Firstly, corroboration, as you saw in the earlier example. Are there certain pieces of evidence that are agreed upon by a few parties? If they are, then those are the points of corroboration. Conflict. Which are the points where there is a direct conflict? Sometimes the conflict doesn't arise in the entire statement or in the entire evidence, but in certain portions. You need to isolate those portions and see exactly where the conflict is happening. Then you look at the balance of evidence. Which side has got more support? And finally, you look at the quality of the evidence using our traditional golden rules.